Well, Mammoth fans, it's June, which means one thing. It's officially draft month. And we have the perfect guest to kick off the festivities here at the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. Steven Ellis is the prospect guru for the Daily Faceoff, where you can find all of his regular segments and read all of his amazing work around the NHL Draft and NHL prospects. Steven is a full-blown hockey prospect sicko who may watch more obscure hockey games than anyone on earth. So if you need to know how Croatia would match up against Kazakhstan, Steven is your guy. He's also perhaps the most famous foot hockey goaltender in all of Canada. We're thrilled to welcome Steven Ellis to the show to break down Utah's recent prospect signings and to tell us everything Mammoth fans need to know about the upcoming 2025 NHL Draft later this month. Steven, how are you doing?
Well, this morning I've watched about 2 hours of French Hockey League action.
There you go.
And I also just watched some highlights of Pakistan's last game over the weekend. So, I'm obscure hockey to start the week.
Wow. And you know what? This is a great segment into something I had to ask you. You may have noticed the shirt. I had to put on one of my favorite recent death metal bands, Blood Incantation shirt. I noticed that you are a diehard metalhead. And I mean, there's nothing better of loving the world of extreme music than finding, some obscure French black metal band or some like brutal grindcore from Serbia. Steven, what are some of your favorite metal acts right now off the top of your head?
So every time you mention the ball hockey, so every time I go pick up a couple players to play, I always put on our pregame music for the band Sperm Swamp. I'm assuming you've heard them all over the radio, right? You just turn it on and you hear like these songs. We're not going to read any of the song names. Obviously, the first time I actually got into like heavier music was from NHL 2004. And if you remember from they would do those like pre-rendered NHL game intros, and they had Chapter 4 by Avenged Sevenfold, which had like the greatest like drum intro in my opinion. And that's what made me really want to get into that. So Slipknot's my favorite. Really liking Lorna Shore. I know Suicide Silence was what kind of got me more into deathcore a while back, or I should like 15 years ago now at this point. Love Chelsea Grin, love Slaughter to Prevail. My all-time favorite band is not a metal band; it is Green Day. But in terms of those, give me blast beats every single day.
Yep, awesome, absolutely love it. All right,
so I don't know what any of that meant at all. But I would like to say that I agree. I think, Steven, I don't know if you're giving yourself enough credit. You may be the most famous ball hockey goalie on earth. I mean, it's possible. Can you name another one? It's not in your league.
I don't.
That's it. You have the mantle. You have the mantle. That's it.
It's funny. Like I only just started playing back in like last fall, and like I used to play like at a competitive level as a kid. I played ice hockey, everything like that. But a couple friends wanted to just get back into hockey, but they didn't want to buy skates. I'm like, let's do this. This is a lot cheaper. I play like I have 3 games tonight. I got 3 games tomorrow.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a lot of games, but it's just like I kind of post clips on Twitter and stuff like that to try and like promote. Like, hey guys, like you don't have to commit all this money to play hockey. You can play a much cheaper version. Like my brother-in-law never watched hockey, didn't care about hockey. I said, hey, come join. He was just looking for a sport to play. He now watches hockey all the time, now loves the sport. And it's like, that's what I'm looking to see. Like, I want to see people get into it. And I just started trying to learn how to do inline hockey. I was warned by everyone who played ice hockey and switched to inline hockey. It's like the hardest thing to do because you're so used to the skates and digging into the ice to stop. Holy moly, man. Like inline skates, you like fly on the ground all the time. It hurts. I'm
terrified of them. I won't wear them. Yeah, I wear ice skates 4 times a week. I will not put on inline skates. They scare me. I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah. It's like I don't want to go like I'm training and I got a helmet on. I'm like, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, it's like I kind of want to learn how to do this to play this next year. And so like I got basically in my camera shot, I got 2 sets of pads. I got my more of my outdoor pads. These are my ones I use most of the time. And then I got you can't even see it, but I got my vinyl goalie helmet that I designed. So it's a good time. I like it.
That's sweet. Well, let's jump into some of the prospect talk and why we're so excited to have you on the show. Otherwise, we could probably be talking about metal bands and ball hockey,
Beer
roller
leagues.
hockey, beer leagues all day here. But as you may have known, there was mammoth news for the Utah Mammoth. Sorry for all the puns. The teams just signed their 2 gigantic redwoods of Dmitry Simashev and Daniil But last week. The vibes are sky high about this all over Salt Lake City, and the fans are buzzing. So we are curious. What are your thoughts on these players? And what were your thoughts ahead of that 2023 draft when the Arizona Coyotes at the time made those surprise selections and grabbed both of those gigantic Russians?
Well, see, that was the thing. At that time, there were still a lot of questions about the Russian players. How would they be able to how would they be able to get over here? And scouts are having a lot fewer in-person viewings, but it seemed like at the time, Bill Armstrong and the Coyotes franchise was really they were finding ways to make sure they got to know these players better than anyone else. And that seemed like a really big advantage for them because a lot of teams didn't scout Russia whatsoever outside of just watching video footage. But with Simashev, you get a big defenseman who can skate. He played a bunch of games in the KHL in his draft year and didn't look out of place there. So that was a good sign. I thought maybe that wasn't the pick I would have made at the time they did. But at the same time, still a piece that they really needed. It was a very clear message at that time. They were trying to go out there and get the biggest prospect pool possible in terms of legitimate physical size. You look at Maverick Lamoureux and then Michael Rabel, the goaltender, he's 6'1,000, and Daniil But, same thing. These guys they got all these big guys, and they wanted to make this a group that's harder to play against. And I think they went out there and got that in those 2 guys. With Simashev, he could be this all-around defenseman who's he plays well in transition. He does things like that. And you look at But, and he's a 6'5" forward. You don't find that often. He can score. He can shoot. He can move. There's a reason those guys are pretty unique prospects in their draft year. So I like them both. I like those picks. I think if I had to pick of which one I think could be in the NHL closer next year, I'm thinking Simashev. I think they both, you don't need to rush either of them. This is a team that's still trying to go up. You don't need to rush your young guys right now, but I do think that they're both going to be very decent impact players moving forward. And I'd say Simashev's their second best prospect. I do like Iginla more than him. And then I'd say But maybe behind Lamoureux, maybe he's the 4th or 5th best prospect.
Yeah. Well, all that is probably going to change after this year's draft because we've seen your top 80, so we know who is on your BPA list. But with Utah picking 4th overall and with the context of who they have picked in their pool and is currently on their roster and where they're headed, who would you pick? And afterwards, I'll ask you who you think Utah will pick. But first of all, let's who would you take at 4th overall?
It's an interesting one. Let's go with the assumption that Schaefer's going number 1. I'd say Misa's number 2. I like the idea of it being Porter Martone to the Blackhawks at number 3. I just feel like he'd be a perfect fit for what that team needs. Then you're looking at, okay, do you pick James Haggins? Do you pick Anton Frundell, Jake O'Brien? I wouldn't be. I know from seeing a lot of Brady Martin games, Utah scouted him a lot this year. That's a guy that I feel like they would really like. I love Brady Martin, by the way, one of my favorite prospects in hockey. My guess is if he's still available, they're taking James Haggins. And that's a guy who is so smart. He could be that number 1 center. Logan Cooley might want to have a word there. But if those are your number 1 or 2 centermen, that's a great group to have there. And with Haggins, a very smart player who's been so productive throughout his whole life. I think people forget that as a draft -1 player, he set the record for most points ever at the U18 World Championship. A year before that, he did the same thing at the U17 World Championship. So that's a guy that's been so productive. He can score, he can shoot, he can play with anyone. A lot of people, I think, pointed out the fact that he had really good line mates at Boston College this year. And that's great. But when he was playing with that NTDP team last year, especially at the U18 World Championship, he was doing it with guys who were drafted much later in the draft and was not surrounded by extreme talent. He was the one making everything happen. He's one of the smartest prospects in this draft, and I do love him as a future number 1 center in the NHL. So I think that's almost kind of what I would pick and what I think they would do. If he's available, I feel like it'd be a mistake letting him off the board. But at the same time, you're looking at that, and you can make an argument for maybe wanting someone like Porter Martone, who's got that tenacity, but can also be a shooter, can play the power play, do the penalty kill, or maybe you want Brady Martin, who is a top line player in the NHL. I'm thinking probably going to be a winger, but just wants to make as much noise as humanly possible.
Yeah,
Love it.
And that's really interesting because we saw that happen in the Cooley draft where the kind of smaller guy, if you will, kind of fell into Utah's laps, and granted, Wright was right there, but they decided to go with the guy they wanted, the guy with the supreme skill and skating, and didn't look back. And that's really interesting about Higgins maybe being a little bit of a repeat.
Yeah, and he's one of my favorites too, Steven. I've been a bit of a Higgins apologist here, especially in the second half of the season when he's kind of gone from maybe being slightly overrated to start the year to, in my opinion, very underrated. He kind of gets picked apart a lot in ways that don't seem very fair to me personally. My only hesitation with him, though, is because they did draft Cooley and added him to Clayton Keller, who's a foundational piece of the team and the captain. Those are the two guys I always see him compared to the most, and the comparison fits for me. But I wonder if just the presence of those two guys already in the system and on the roster, is there room for a third piece like that? Are they looking at this Stanley Cup Finals or the conference finals and wondering, does a James Higgins, Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller core get the job done? What do you think about adding Higgins to the mix there, Steven?
I fully believe it, and that'd be a great move there. Like, think about it from like a matchup perspective. Like, if Cooley is your first line center, because you want to keep him with Keller, like we saw at the World Championship just what they're capable of together on the world stage. But if Higgins is your number two, and you push Barrett Hayden, let's say you're like your third line center, like that's some of the best center depth you're going to find. And to me, that's a matchup nightmare. Like, you can never have enough good centermen, and when it comes to Higgins, like I don't know, like Cooley's got a great hockey mind, he's great hockey IQ, but I think Higgins would be the smartest player this team has in terms of what he's capable of doing with the puck. And I'm always on the board of best player available. And for me, they've kind of got a couple smaller guys that can do a lot on this team, but they've also got a lot of size coming too, right? So that's why I'm not too concerned about the size concerns there. And if I'm looking at the pure raw ability, I think James Higgins, going off of if he's available for, it's going to be a tough time finding a player that I think is going to be as effective of a two-way threat. And I also will point out he has added some bulk to his game. Like, I do remember watching him at the World Juniors compared to watching him at the U18s. Not a huge period of time, but he was definitely much stronger. He still got some room to grow there, but that's something he is committed at working on. And I don't think he's going to be in the NHL next year. I think he'll take that time to kind of just to be fair, actually, I don't think a single player in this draft should be in the NHL next year. That's not a knock against the draft. I just think there's different reasons for why certain guys shouldn't be there. Like Schaefer barely played this year, and Misa, we're kind of expecting he might go to college. So that would kind of slow things down. With Higgins, you can go out there and physically work on getting stronger, and I think that would make him a more suitable pick for the team. So I always go best player available. I have a hard time thinking there'll be many guys better at number 4 than James Higgins is.
And talk of centers on the wing, I know that's something you've thought of as well with Michael Misa, latest player to get the CHL exceptional status, at least who's up for the draft. Unlikely to be on the board when Utah steps up at number 4, but just curious as well on your thoughts on why you see him as more maybe a winger than a center long term.
I think it really depends on the team. If he goes to Chicago, like, you'd think he would want to go out there and play like, hey, if you could put him out there with Bedard, that'd be awesome. But I think for him, he has shown he could be a center and a wing. Obviously, he puts up all these points this year. I do feel like there were times where he watches the puck a bit too much. And we're not talking like a crazy, like he got better at it. Like, it's not like a crazy big knock against him. He's still the best forward in this draft. But it feels like there's some situations there where he can go out there and dominate with the puck. I'd rather him focus on shooting the puck and doing things in the offensive zone than having to be that two-way threat you kind of expect out of a center. Like, I feel like if you compare it to like Higgins, I think the better actual centerman. Caleb Desnoyers, another guy I think could be an actual better centerman. But with Misa, he's got kind of the ability to do both. He looked really good as a winger last year. That was something he really wanted to work on, was becoming a bigger all-around threat. But he's got he's not this huge guy where he's going to be able to win all these face-offs off of pure strength. So I do wonder if maybe he'd be better off as a winger long-term. I think he could play both, and that is, to me, the allure here. Like, that's the thing about him that makes him a step over some other guys, and the fact that he can be a great center, but he can also be a great wing. And there are very few players in this draft who could do at the high level that he can.
And if we want to talk about Europeans as well, it seems to be the same discussion around Anton Frundell, whether he's going to be a center or a wing, and just as well curious where you see him in the future.
I think that he's very. We're looking at him being a two-way player. I've always kind of looked at him as maybe a second-line center. The thing about him is he had to deal with so many injuries this year, and I think that really kind of screwed up his development there. But he showed up in the second half of that season in the Allsvenskan, like, oh, wow, like this guy could do so many great things. And like so much of the attention early on in Europe was what Victor Eklund was doing on the same Swedish team, Desjardins. But with Frundell, I feel like, again, not a huge guy, but it doesn't seem to matter. He's got this ability to win these battles. There's enough times out there, though, I'm wishing I could see a bit more intensity. Like he lost a lot of battles with the U18s that he probably should not have against players he should not have. To be fully fair to him, like he joined the tournament late because he was playing in the Allsvenskan final, and he played his first game with basically no sleep, and he kind of showed in the way he played. But we didn't see enough of him in that playoff round to get really excited about him. That is a small sample size, but I feel like there's points where I just want him to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more, just bring that energy. But at the same time, I love how when you see a lot of the ways he scores goals, especially on the power play, he's kind of on that flank. He's able to fire shots just perfectly placed, a little bit like Cole Eiserman last year when we saw him dominating the USHL and NCAA with the NTDP. So with Frundell, like he's got that ability to do all that stuff still too. And but he could be the center, he could be the wing. He's played a bit of both this year and has looked good at both of that. So we'll see kind of what happens. Again, I think whether or not he becomes a center in the NHL is really dependent on the team that drafts him.
Yeah, and when I watch him, I had the thought, is he going to be a center on the power play specifically? To me, it seems like he'll probably want to be set up to get that one-timer off. And when you look at Utah, you've got Dylan Gunther in that spot already, and you've got Tijik Inla coming to fill it on PP2. It's getting a little bit crowded for that trigger man spot to get that one touch off. And I wonder if Frundell's going to get those opportunities in a team like this. So interesting. Nonetheless, he could go either which direction. He seems like a guy who a lot of people love a lot. A lot of people kind of had a sour taste left in their mouth after the U18s and his lack of playing time in the promotion round with Djurgården. But one guy in this whole list of maybe centers, maybe wingers, that's a definite winger, is Porter Martone, right? He's been a little bit more controversial lately, at least in terms of online discussion about, what his player profile is, what his comps are going to be, his strengths and weaknesses. We've heard a lot of Tkachuk stuff early on, and now the anti-Tkachuk comparison discourse now. It seems like Porter's a little bit under attack, at least in the online community, that I'm sure he doesn't care at all about. But one thing Utah really does seem to value is work ethic. They really stressed this when they picked Tijik Inla and Cole Baudouin, and countless others. And when I've watched Porter Martone, I've seen, kind of an up and down version of that, at least on ice, at least from what I see on video, which certainly isn't everything. But can you tell us what you've seen from Porter when he's on the ice, when it comes to the consistency of his motor, his work ethic, his physical play? What can you expand on that? Some of the nitpicks we've seen in the public sphere recently.
I've watched Porter Martone probably more than any prospect in this draft because he plays in Brampton, not far from where I live, and it was even easier when it was in Mississauga. But with him, I think the skating concerns are so overblown here. Like it makes it seem like this guy just truly cannot skate. And you look at Jason Robertson is the number one example that gets brought up all the time of a player who couldn't skate in their draft year and nobody thought they'd be able to make it at the next level, and then clearly figured out how to skate. Like this is a guy who's come a long way. And yeah, he's had a bit of a longer development time because he's an older player. He is an 06, but late 06. But he's been able to improve his skating a little bit over the last couple of years. And with some NHL coaching, it's gonna figure out. Like the thing about it is bad skaters don't happen as much at the high end of the draft like it used to. And that's because skating programs, especially in the offseason, have improved in such a big way. So when you look at it, he was on pace for just under 120 points for a full OHL season, almost always impactful with that Brampton team. Every time I watched him, he got like multiple point games. He can hit hard. He likes to get involved in everything. Like this guy is extremely competitive, but players I've talked to who've played with him point him out as a proven leader. Like, this is a guy who's been a captain at the OHL level with Team Canada already. Like, they clearly like what he brings on the leadership side of things. But then he's got this physical nature. He's got a good shot. And so for me, I'm not looking at the skating and thinking that's such a negative. Like, I'm looking at this as a competitive guy that wants to win every single night. And players like that are guys that thrive in the playoffs. And you look at the Florida Panthers, and you mentioned Kachuk, but you also look at Brad Marchand, and those are guys who are just going to battle no matter what. They might have a ruptured stomach. They might have like no legs left. They might not, like, who knows? They might not even have arms, but they might still. They're still going to find ways to be competitive, and that's what I look at with Porter Martone. This is a guy that wants to win at all costs.
The might not even have arms just makes me think of it's just a flesh wound with the night.
Exactly where my brain went too.
Steven, another player, Caleb Desnoyers, looks like he checks a lot of the boxes. Consistency, shot, he's got a pretty good motor, decent size. But I'm wondering if there's a wow factor with this player. Is he not necessarily worth taking at number 4, but maybe he doesn't have the same upside as a player like a James Higgins? Just curious your thoughts on this player.
So he was outstanding in the WHL or the QMJHL playoffs, like 30 points, just outstanding. And he's not the flashiest. He's not going to go out there and beat everyone with skill, but what he's going to do is rally everyone together. Like, he's another proven leader guy. Like, you look at, he's won a QMJHL championship, the U17s, the U18s, the Hlinka Gretzky. Like, this guy has won at every level. He's not a big centerman, but you're not like a huge centerman, but he's got some strength to him. He's got a good shot. He's a very good skater, great hockey IQ. You put all that together, like, he reminds me of watching a bit of Nico Hischier at the same age, a guy that's not going to be the flashiest player out there, but he's going to do everything right, and he's probably going to put up 70 points in the NHL. So yeah, he's not Michael Misa, he's not even James Higgins, but he's a two-way player. He gets the job done. He has played a lot of meaningful hockey at already a young age. Like, that goes a long way too. Like, sure, it's winning the QMJHL championship is not winning the Memorial Cup, or it's not winning the Stanley Cup, but what it is he's being put in these situations where he's got to perform with the high stakes, and he continues to do it no matter what. So I look at that as a player where teams are going to love him for that. They're going to love his hockey IQ, and not the guy taken number 4, but like, if he was taken, it wouldn't feel like a stretch either, because a lot of scouts I know think he could be a number 4 prospect in this draft.
And we do know Bill Armstrong, and I'm sure a lot of other GMs are the same, puts a lot of emphasis on players who have won championships. We just saw the 2 guys in the KHL win their championship, and a couple others as well. And I mean, as we were talking about earlier, if down the center you're going Cooley DNA and Barrett Hayton, you're probably going to win a lot of hockey games.
Yeah. Like, you want smart players. Like, you look at it, and I mentioned the skating thing. Like, if you're a good skater, you're going to figure out opportunities. I know I was kind of saying, like, I'm not too worried about Martone in that case, but if you're a good skater, great. If you're a smart player, awesome. Because the players who have the best hockey IQ are the ones that are going to continue to create opportunities. Like, Corey Perry is one hell of a smart guy, and he was able to completely reinvent his game. He was an MVP in like 2010 or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And now he's more of a support player. He's an older guy. He's a power forward, but he does it so well because he's able to adapt. He knows what he needs to do to be productive, to be effective at every level. And that's what I look at here, Desnoyers. It's like he doesn't need to score to be effective. And he's also just smart enough where he's not putting himself in trouble. He's going out there and winning most of his shifts. Like, that should be the goal of every shift. Win that shift. Worry about the game in the end, but win your individual shift, and you're not going to lose the game. And that's what he does.
He's probably been the favorite player of every coach he's ever had at every level. You know, like Mr. Dependable, does exactly the right thing, always in the right place. That's what I always think when I look at him. I'm like, he's probably never been yelled at by a coach. Anyway.
Not flashy. He's not going to showboat. He's not going to do anything like that. He's just going to be effective. And yeah, coaches love that.
And one wild card for this draft also happens to be a little bit of a wild man, and that's Brady Martin. You mentioned him before. You've got him 7th on your list, and we've all started to hear more and more rumblings that he could go even earlier than that. Could this guy be this year's Beckett Seneca, the surprise riser? And could he go as early as 4th? I mean, he does seem kind of like made in a lab by scientists to be the perfect Utah Mammoth in many ways, in my opinion.
100%. Like, this is the most competitive player out there. And so much you're going to hear about it on draft day about like him coming from a farm background, his family, big farming family in Ontario, and talking about how like that's kind of how he's become this workman like man who just wants to go out there and do everything. But then you see it on the ice, like the Hlinka Gretzky. He didn't score. He only had a couple points, a couple secondary points actually. And it didn't matter because he was still one of the best players out there in a fourth line role. He had to come back from an injury last year where he missed some significant time, but going out the Greyhounds, not incredible numbers by any means, but he had to do so much of the heavy lifting, especially early in the season. And then you watch him at all these showcase events. He continued to find ways to shine, whether it be the CHL USA series or OHL Top Prospects game, thing like that. Then you go and watch him play at this U18s, and he was one of the best players in that entire tournament. And that's because he battles hard. He wants to win every single shift. He's smart, but he can also score. Like I watched him score at the U16 level, one of the coolest goals I've ever seen in person. And just, I think he deked out every single player on the ice. Like this guy has a ton of talent, but that's not necessarily his game. But he's got that if he needs to. He can evolve, and that's the thing. He's able to evolve to everything. I would not be surprised if Utah picks him at number 4. Not one bit. And I would think that's a good pick because teams continue to look at what Stanley Cup winning teams have. And it's these guys that can go out there and they got skill, but they're willing to fight to the death. That's what Brady Martin does. So is he the most skilled player? No. Is he the best defensive player? No. But he's good at everything. And he's got that competitive nature. And that's a player that I love. Like him and Kashawn Aitchison on Barrie are two guys that I could watch play hockey all day. Because they just want to win. Like Aitchison is a defenseman who I don't think he's going to put up a ton of points in the NHL, but he does something that defenders are supposed to do, which is become hard to play against. And he's about as difficult of a player to play against. I've asked players, like, what's it like playing against them? And they're like, don't use my name, but I've never played a guy that's harder to play against than this guy here. And that's because he wants to kill you at all times. He does it with a smile on his face too. So like watching him at the the OHL Top Prospect game, levels a guy, gets ready to fight. No one comes near him. No one wants to fight. He goes out and creates a scoring chance. We saw it at the CHL USA series where he tried to fight every single player and he was chirping the American bench. Like, I love guys like that. A guy that just wants to win. He's not huge, but he plays like he is. And when I asked him who his like favorite player to watch growing up, he named his uncle, who I think he only played like Division III NCAA, but he brought this nature of just wanting to just destroy guys, but also have the skill to back it up. That's what Kashawn Aitchison does. And Brady Martin's not going to go kill guys, but he's going to make you very mad, and then he's going to score on his next shift. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Boston's ever complained about Marchand. I don't think the Capitals have ever complained about Tom Wilson. I don't think the Florida Panthers are complaining about Sam Bennett, and Martin seems to be cut in similar cloth there. You do have Martin a little bit higher than I've seen on other lists right now. Are there any other potential wild card player names that may kind of pop there around number 4, like the Eklunds or the O'Briens, or do you kind of put them in a different tier?
The one I would say real wild card is Roger McQueen, and that's because he has not played a lot of hockey this year due to a back injury. And you look at Caden Lidstrom last year, and you're like, oh, you don't want that to be the same thing, like where he barely plays. But with McQueen, he's big, he's strong, but he's got a lot of skill. Like I think I wrote that he plays like he's a 5'11" dangler. Like that's the thing. He can hit you. He'll make like it will hurt, but he'll also geek your pants off. And this my one concern for him is just the lack of playing time, the fact he wasn't explosive by any means at the end of the season. Like I wanted to see more. So his medicals need to be good. Yeah, we heard last year Caden Lidstrom at the draft combine that his medicals were all ready to go and everything was good. And then he played like a handful of games total this year. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I think the fact that his skating has improved, all these other high-end attributes, has shown that this guy can be a dominant player in the NHL, like Tage Thompson. Well, you just got to see how healthy he is.
Yeah, agreed. Well, this is where we're going to take the next layer into the draft nerddom. If you still have time, we'd love to be able to talk a little bit about the second round with you, if that'd be all right.
Yep. So.
All right. All
So
the draft are salivating now. Let's get into the good stuff.
So the player you have ranked 46th, where Utah is slated to pick, is Vaclav Nestrasil. And he really looks like the quintessential Utah pick from what I've seen in the USHL. And I love that he's a mammoth Czech headed to UMass with his countryman and fellow giant Michael Robel, as you said, 6'100". They just brought in the pair of two big Russians. Wouldn't mind a twin pair of towering Czechs too. What can you tell us about Nestrasil?
Yeah, he's got that 6'5" size, and they love to draft massive dudes, so that seems to be a good fit for him. Not physically strong, but that hasn't really been an issue for him. Like, I feel like he moves well. He's got some skill with his quick hands. If he can add some more muscle to his game, we're talking about a guy who's probably going to be a power forward in the NHL. So there's a lot to like. One other name feels like a Utah pick, and that is Simon Wang out of Oshawa, the left-handed defenseman. So he's from Beijing, China. He'd be the highest drafted player in out of China ever if he was taken in the second round. Actually, as long as he's drafted like before the fourth round, I believe he'd be the highest one. And he's a great skater, loves to play some shutdown defense, but also has a ton of offense too. I would not be surprised if a team takes him in the first round, like a team like Winnipeg that wants to get a big defenseman who could do so much. But that's a name to keep an eye on because of how quickly he has developed. Like, it was only a couple of years ago where he started taking hockey seriously. Like, he was, I don't remember the exact age, but I think it was like 15 or 16. That's when he's like, oh, like, I'm actually going to start trying to take this as a sport I want to do professionally. And he's come a long way quickly. And a 6'6" defenseman that could skate, there's a lot of teams that are going to like guys like that.
Absolutely.
And we led off the show talking about the Russians, Daniil But and Dmitry Simashev. And I know another Russian that you've had your eye on for a long time, number 41 on your list, Kurban Limitov. What can you tell us about this player?
Yeah, so he's kind of like the defenseman that you're always looking for, who's like not too big and that doesn't affect his skating. And right now he's 6'3". He skates well, good puck mover. I'd say like watching him a lot this past year, like he was one of the quicker skaters. And part of that is his acceleration is really quick. And those two don't always go together. But when it comes to his acceleration, he's just got this quick footwork right off the bat because he's got strong legs and he's able to win a lot of puck battles in tight spaces because of that. He also wants to knock people down. Again, like there's a thing about, you don't want guys who are just out there crushing guys, but guys that can move well, when they're competent shooters and that can also knock guys down, are valuable, especially in the playoffs. And that's what you look at. Like, this is a guy that I feel like is going to be very difficult to play against when the games start to really matter. I will also point out, even though Michael Rabel is a very good goalie prospect, he doesn't hurt to grab a couple other ones. Like, my philosophy, because I'm just thinking about it, because I got Jack Ivankovic one spot later there in 42. That'd be a name to watch out. 5'11", so complete opposite side on the size range, but almost identical in the way that he plays to Dustin Wolf. And Dustin Wolf was a guy that I thought should have been a first-round draft pick in that draft year. Obviously fell to the 7th round. Don't ignore Jack Ivankovic, who's going to Michigan next year.
And with Ivankovic, like, I don't know, for me, I'm not a goalie like you, Steven. It's hard for me to like really fall in love with a goalie or really root for one or see one that stands out to me in my eye and be like, man, that guy is really fun and he's easy to root for. And for me, Ivankovic is definitely that. Like, seeing what he's been able to accomplish internationally and in league play, it's like, despite being 5'11", it's within our lifetime, not that long ago, that wouldn't have been a absolute deal breaker as it seems to be now. So I'm definitely rooting for that guy too. Like, let's bring the 5'11" goalies back. Damn it.
Hey, I would love that. That'd give me a chance to play in the NHL. But with him, like, his dad is 6'4". Like, you're kind of hoping that he hits that level at some point and becomes this massive goalie. It's just at 17, 18 years old, like, how much growing do you have left? But the thing about him is his glove hand. He keeps it so active and high up. And if you watch Dustin Wolf, this is a guy that every time he's moving, his glove is always like by his head. And that's making sure that no one could just shoot the puck near his head and take advantage of that. And with Ivankovic, that glove hand is his biggest weapon out there. Like, it's so good. He's also got really quick reflexes. He moves very well. I also appreciate his style. That's a guy, like, I'm not talking about his playing style. I'm talking about like his goalie pads. I don't know if you've watched like video clips or photos of him in like August to September to November to January to like April, like different pads all the time. And I love that. Like that's a lot of goalies don't want to switch their equipment because they're superstitious and they don't want to break something in. He's got new pads all the time, and I remember watching him at the U18 training camp, and his mom came in and she had like 3 helmets in her hand. Like this guy has so many cool sets of equipment, and I'm excited to see what he does in the NHL. But to me, who cares if you can stop a puck? If you look cool, that's all that matters.
And going from small goalies to bigger forwards, and we know Bill Armstrong likes his bigger forwards. 2 other players had my eye on, Shane Van Seghe and Will Horkoff. Just curious your thoughts on those 2 players as well.
Van Seghe loves to hit everybody in sight, but he doesn't do it in like a I'm going to kill you way. He does it in a way to just kind of like take you out of where you need to be. And he's very good defensively. I feel like with him, he likes to just get in the way. And I watched him play at Michigan State earlier this year where he started as a 4th liner. When it became clear they were going to win, he got moved up to the top line and instantly became the best player in that game. Watching him at the NTDP, you kind of forgot about him at points because he played on a team that had guys like Cole Eiserman and James Haggins and Teddy Stiga. So I was like, whatever. But with him, he's going to be a role player in the NHL, Van Seghe, but he's going to be a very good role player because he's good defensively. He knows to not try and outdo himself in the way he moves the puck. He's just going to keep things simple, but he's good at it. And then you look at with Horkoff, he's more of a murderer out there. Like he'll try to put you through the glass, but he's also got this great shot. He comes from a family where, Sean Horkoff played in the NHL. Yeah. So he's got that there. So good first. Like when he went to Michigan at the start of the year and looked already better than he ever did in the NTDP, kind of nuts. But I'd say I really like what both of those guys bring to the table. I know Horkoff, a lot of people think he could be a late first rounder. I'm not on that board because I don't think he's got a ton of offensive upside, but I think he's a power forward. And if you're looking for a power forward, there's not many guys who are going to be as good as him.
It sounds like there's a lot of players in this draft who play Bill Armstrong hockey, and Bill Armstrong has a lot of draft picks. So matches up well.
Let's see if they trade any of them. It's not the draft to trade picks. You might as well go and get those guys. You can never. You want to draft all these super skilled guys, but you need bottom 6 guys too, and that's what I think Utah can take advantage of this year.
Interesting. Any other players kind of in that 46 range that Utah Mammoth fans should have their eyes on?
Eddie Genborg out of Sweden is another guy that's like, you look at the numbers on international tournaments, like, did he play? But then you go out there and look, it's like, oh, this guy actually is like a perfect NHL player because he's got that 2A energy. He wants to knock you down, but he also goes out there and he's not doing stupid things. Like when he's hitting for a purpose. I don't see much high-end potential, but he blocks shots. He can play the penalty kill. Like he's got a lot of the traits that teams are looking for from a bottom 6 player. If you're looking for a bit more skill, maybe Victor Klingzell has been very good for Sweden. He's not big. He's 5'10", so it kind of goes against what they've kind of done. But I do think he's really good on the power play, and you can put him in these scoring roles in a third-line role, and he's got the energy to make it work. Adam Benok is another one. 5'7", so very tiny. But in terms of pure skill players, I don't think Czechia as a country has had a guy this good since David Pastrnak. The issue is he's really small and he doesn't bring any physical elements to the game. But you watch him at all these international tournaments, he dominates. It's because he's really good on the power play. Like he's smart, he can slow the game down, and he's shifty. He can get past you quickly and make your life hard. So those are the names I kind of look at and say, there's some interesting picks.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all this. I mean, this will keep us busy for the next couple of weeks, just kind of dissecting it all and debating it all and chatting about it. We got a bunch of diehard fans in the Clean Hits Discord that just chat about prospects all day. So they're going to be absolutely thrilled with this interview. Thanks again for your time, Steven. And don't forget to wear earplugs at those metal shows you're going to.
See, I used to think that was such a stupid thing, but it was actually it was a race that I went to where I forgot my earplugs at home, and I would you're taking pictures right by the track, and a V12 engine comes by, and it's like, oh my God, I can't hear for 3 days. I now make sure I always have something ear protection related with me at all times, no matter where I go.
Good for you. Unfortunately, I kind of got way beyond that point, and now nothing phases me, but that's my little warning for everybody else that
it's a good one.
Still has healthy ears. So all right, thanks again, Steven.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
game change. Watch the game change.